Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everybody to Kicking Back with Keo. This is another episode of the podcast. I already messed with the intro, but that's whatever. Today, my special guest today is a very close friend of mine from college, from the University of Buffalo. He is, like I said, one of my closest friends ever. He and I graduated together at the University of Buffalo, and he is currently a Ph.D. student at Harvard. I would like to introduce Paul Dewan. Hello, Paul.
Dude. Hi, how's it going, Keo?
uh, Yeah, it's how are you doing first off?
Pretty good, yeah.
I know you and I haven't really talked that much since I actually last visited you, and honestly, as much as you and I have spent what 3 to 4 years knowing each other, I don't think I know anything about you beforehand. I know like very little, probably like
Mhm.
that you did track, but I guess I didn't really know how you got into everything. So I guess we could kind of explore a little bit of that, so I can get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, so where should I start? Like middle school, maybe? Or
If you well, my first question I would say is, since you are specifically you first started in biology, when did you kind of get the interest of going into biology?
yeah, so for me, like when I first started high school, it was really kind of all social sciences. I really enjoyed social studies, history, and I thought that's what I would do in college. I didn't really have much thoughts about it, but my what's it called? My parents kind of did like more standard careers like business and teaching, and they were first generation students, so my exposure to like actual jobs in academic fields weren't very much. So once I got into like, I didn't actually take biology till 11th grade. So once I took it for the first time, I was also running track at the same time. And a lot of the stuff like I was learning about nutrition, just training for track was something we talked about in like this biology course. And I found like the parallels really cool. So for me, that was like a big thing that like sparked my interest in biology around like 11th grade.
Since you kind of chose that kind of biology course since in high school, did was there any pushback, especially from your parents, since your parents, like you said, were in kind of very different fields? Did you have any pushback from your family with going into something so significantly different?
No, especially even like, so skipping past, I was going into senior year, pretty set on biology. And then when I went to college, I was like, at that point, I really only knew like, the only thing you could really do with biology is be a medical doctor, right? And that's like the only kind of job that I'd been too exposed to at that point. So I was like going into UB pre-med, but I had also taken physics. So I was like, I really like this. I'll be pre-med with a minor in physics. And then my parents were like, for that, they were like, oh yeah, that's great. They know what doctor is. That's a pretty standard thing. But once I got to UB, it was kind of like I was really exposed since the school is such like this big research institution. Like I was immediately exposed within a week into like people doing research, and like I actually changed my major and plan within the first week of undergraduate, which they say at UB a lot of people change their, they say like a good number of people change their major, but I was literally the first week, and my parents were very supportive. I would say my dad was just like, oh, as long as you can get some sort of job, he's like, I may not know what it is, but as long as you're not. My mom always jokes, she'd be like, as long as you're not living under my check anymore, then it's good with me. So they didn't have much pushback, especially because I really took the time to like, I guess, especially not when I first changed, but like learn about what was out there in fields and science.
Okay, yeah. I mean, when we met, you were already established physics major. It was because we met what second semester of freshman year,
Yep.
so
So past
you were
the
already
first week, yeah.
established as a. I'm sorry.
I just said past the first week, yeah.
Yeah. So I was honestly I was completely when I first met you, I was unaware that you were even doing both at the
Mm.
time. So I guess one thing is basically like you're one of the people that in college decided to do a double major. I mean, we know somebody else who basically did a triple, but you're one of those that have done a double major and came out with great success. Would you what is your advice, and what do you regret about taking that double major?
I mean, for me, I feel like I didn't think about it too much. Like my thought process was I liked biology, I liked physics. We didn't have biophysics at UB, so it's just like let's see how far I can go. So I wrote it all down. Maybe that was the thing that was helpful. Writing it all down first year, what classes I would take each semester, and fitting it into a schedule that looked manageable. But like I think like the reason I was able to like kind of survive through that was just because one, it was just like what I was interested in, right? Because like if I wasn't into the stuff, it would have been like much more brutal trying to bring myself to classes. Like if I was just doing this double major for some sort of like resume or something like that. But it was like a really like natural path that kind of evolves from me thinking, oh, I like biology, like physics, thought about being a doctor, but realized you can actually do like real research as a job. And so like since I was able to enjoy like that sort of thinking in my classes, honestly, it made it much more manageable. But also helped that I took a lot of AP courses in high school. Like that was what really let me graduate in 4 years. Because actually, if you remember Alex, who was also a biology and physics major, but he took like the extra year to finish just because I don't think he has many AP courses that, and he was also playing football. So, but yeah, definitely those things are important.
Yeah, Alex definitely. He did 5 years. Yeah, that. Yeah, he did definitely did a lot on his part.
Yeah,
But I
he's
know
also
you
doing his
did as
masters
well.
too.
Since
So yeah,
I mean, ever since I've known you, is he?
yeah, I think he's finishing it up now,
I
but
did not know that.
haven't seen him in a while. But
Yeah, but I mean, ever since I've known you, you've always been, especially in college, you've definitely been just constantly grinding. And I know a lot of people. This is going to be a weird side of me that you're about to see. Um, a little context. Paul and I have known each other for quite a while. He and I are really good friends, and I don't really give him praise. So this is gonna be one of the few times he's gonna hear me compliment him. I usually am the one that kind of bullies him a lot, but he's gonna hear a lot of praise come from me. Um, your work ethic, ever since I've known you, you've been extremely hardworking, and you always, despite your opinion, I know you're a little harsh on yourself. You have a good balance in working a lot, but also being able to find time to, uh, not perfect, but find time for yourself. And I feel like, which is quite rare, you have been able to be successful in everything, even though you work a lot, but you found time to spend time with your friends. And what I would say, you probably studied out of schoolwork and everything you've done, you probably total probably like 40, 50 hours of studying, and then still had time for your friends. Like, how did you manage to do that? I couldn't even manage 20 hours of studying. I couldn't even handle half the work that you've done, but you've been able to find time to do it. How did you manage all of that?
yeah, I guess like even like the one thing we were pointing out, like hours. I don't think I've ever thought about the amount of hours I've spent on each of the things I do. Like I've always kind of thought about it as like kind of like things I need to get done. So I'll like tap them as I have to do them. But yeah, I guess like maybe that hours estimate is accurate now that I hear it out loud. But it's yeah, I think part of it was just really I kind of tried to keep honest with myself and like make sure I was never taking on more than I thought I could do. And even if that was like a lot, it's like it was something I always thought like I'm like I can do this and I'm not going to be overwhelmed. Like that was always my goal. And then like naturally as I always like kind of went to like the edge of like not being overwhelmed, but like kind of like pushing myself every semester, kind of like uptake my like not endurance, but just my ability to like continue to take on more work and just like compartmentalize my schedule. So I think that was a big part of it. Just like instead of like being super strict with like timing and stuff, really putting together my schedule in such a way that I'm doing stuff in kind of a natural flow, and then two, just making sure I'm not having too much on my plate at all times.
I think, are we good? All right, we may have lost you.
Did you hear? Could you
Can we
hear
hear
me?
you?
Or I can hear you. Can you
We're
hear
kind
me?
of, yes, yes, okay.
Okay. Sorry.
I heard 95% of that, which I think I just missed a few words, but I think we're okay.
Okay. Yeah.
um, so I mean, you never overload yourself, even though some of us may have told you that you overwork. You always felt like you were able to manage yourself.
Yeah. I
And
wouldn't say
clearly,
never, but I
after
try my
even
best
now,
not to.
all that work has been able to. Yeah. It obviously that all that work has come to play because even in your graduate school applications, we could kind of go into that. After 4 years of immense work, you were able to put everything into grad school applications. I know you were still stressed about it. I mean, all of us were when we were putting the grad school apps. But even after you put, like I said, 50 hours a week into stuff, did you feel as if you weren't, like, the amount of work wasn't enough to get you into many schools? Or did you feel like, okay, I've done a lot of work, I can at least get to some stuff, but not everything?
Yeah. I feel like, so to like one degree, like kind of my mindset was always like, it doesn't really matter the school, not in the sense that it doesn't matter, because obviously like the school you matter will pick you will affect your trajectory. But I honestly always believed in my own capabilities enough that I'm like, even if I don't get into X school or Y school, I'll be able to find some way to turn it around. And whatever school I go to, it's just going to be a matter of putting my best foot forward and trying to develop success there. And that success may not be like grad student at Harvard, like right now, but like wherever you are, you can always like find successes in those places. But it's definitely stressful at some points. I think I got kind of lucky my last 2 years. I had good guidance in like filling out my application, and that's probably why I was able to get into like some of the top schools for my graduate school. And then obviously, even though I was just saying, I was like, I really believe that anywhere I went, I'd be successful. Like once you have the options, it's like you want to put yourself in the best situation to be successful. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's kind of the thoughts I
No,
had.
that perfectly does. And honestly, I should learn from you of, you have that mindset of, you said it, like, anywhere, any option, you make success out of it. And you've had many options to go from, and you chose a specific school. But before we get into the school that you chose, I kind of wanted to ask, um, I mean, you and I can give advice about how to do graduate applications. We've heard it from people who've taught people how to do graduate applications. But as a student who just did it, like, in the last year, what would you say is the best steps to write your graduate applications when it comes to personal statements, statement of purposes, and how to build up those sort of things?
Yeah, so I know a lot of advice that I got when I was applying from some people is like kind of to like, oh, just like write a template for every school and like tweak it. But I feel like partially, I don't know how much, like, again, I don't really have any insights on admissions, but I feel like what I actually ended up doing was I started with a blank page for every single school statement of purpose and personal statement. And it's not that I rewrote every single essay for every single application, but I really like dug into whatever words they gave me for the prompt. And so like it was an attempt to tailor, and you can tailor, I guess some people say like tailor like a last paragraph and say who you want to work with. But some of the schools really have like certain questions they want you to answer, and you may not have answered it if they don't intersect with the prompt. So it's really good. And once you write like three or four, you'll have like a bank of stuff that you can like mix and match. And that's kind of what I did for my applications. But it was really, I think, the writing process is not something you want to be kind of like this linear. You write one thing, you're done, change the names of professors you want to work with. I really think it probably is helpful if you are really sitting with each one and like writing each one from scratch, editing each one separately. Not writing from scratch, but writing from a blank page, taking parts of your others and rearranging it in such a way that answers the questions of the prompts that they want. And if they don't give you prompts, then maybe you have some sort of general essay. But yeah, I think that's the main thing I would say.
Okay, perfect. I don't know what happened. My computer just glitched out. But I think we're good.
Okay.
Oh, what? Something just happened.
You're frozen on my side, but
Okay, I think we're back.
All right, perfect.
All right, that was weird, but I think we're good. Um, what is happening? This is the first time this has failed. Okay, we're good. Sorry about that, everybody. But yeah, that's honestly, I should have taken your advice on that. I honestly, because I'm very lazy, I decided to do the just kind of blanket thing. I should have done with the advice of kind of going the blank slate and catering each school because you know I'm not at the. I should have probably catered to more schools and stuff like that, but of course there were other problems with my application than just the personal statements, right? Um, and our programs are most difficult, so you gotta adjust with how you gotta adjust. So you didn't at the time of actually writing all these applications, you didn't just write for the graduate applications, you also wrote for a the NSF grant, the I forgot the name of it
GRFP.
specifically. Yeah, GRFP. If I remember correctly, you won that, right?
Yep.
But, yeah. So how is that any for anyone that I know the difference, but for anyone that doesn't know the difference, how did you write that differently than what is it and what how did you approach that application differently?
Yeah, I actually think the NSF is a good starting point for the stuff I was talking about. Like, even if you don't end up winning, it gives you a platform to kind of like start writing your personal statements and such, because it honestly is a more thorough version of whatever the statement of purpose and personal statement look like. So the NSF has like their own sort of things that they want you to write about. So you have to write an actual research proposal for that. So it's less so writing about what you've done, but more so kind of a project, maybe extending that or a completely new project that they want to evaluate based off. But it's all centered around like these intellectual merits, which are basically like how are you progressing the knowledge in your field versus broader impacts, which are how are you impacting kind of like society in general. So like those are the main themes that they want you to write about and they judge you on in the essays. But it's definitely like a good starting platform because it's due earlier than your application. So you'll have it written and then you can start taking that to put it into whatever you're going to do for your college grad applications.
Yeah, that's good. Sorry, there's a lot of technical difficulties that are happening. I feel like the website is crashing, but it should be fine. Um, yeah, I remember all of us writing for the NSF grant and putting lots of effort into it. Some more than others, of course. You put loads of time. How many months did you put into it? I can't quite remember. It's about like 3 4 months, right?
I don't think I started anything too crazy early. I more did it in bursts in times. I applied for a Goldwater scholarship before, so even before NSF, I had like some stuff to pull from where I like already had some ideas, and again, it was just
Oh,
tailoring them. But NSF definitely wanted some more stuff that was separate from the Goldwater. So there was a lot of what's it called changes, especially the proposal was completely different, but like the ideas that I wrote about were the same, and that's what like really kind of like permeated through the applications.
oh, okay. Oh, I forgot you did Goldwater. So a lot of the information kind of transferred over and kind of helped you out and
Yeah,
creating
there's very much
NSF.
different essays for Goldwater, but yeah, definitely helped
Okay.
out with the transition.
All right. Well, that's good to know for anyone that wants to try them out.
Mhm.
So we could kind of go on to the main thing is, I mean, you've been accepted to many different programs, but the one you chose was Harvard. So I could kind of ask, why Harvard? Other than the name, of course.
Yeah, so the big thing is for biophysics of all the cities that I visited for graduate schools, the amount of biotech and like hospitals and other like just general biology research happening around Boston was like just to a much greater scale than what was happening in other cities. So like it's a really good place for not necessarily collaboration, but like I think the environment you're around really influences your thinking as a scientist and just being really integrated into like this kind of like where HMS is, there's Boston Children's Hospital right next to it. We'll have Harvard affiliated faculty, Dana-Farber's Cancer Center. It's just like really being surrounded by scientists in this area. And I think it's like one of the big perks of our program. And yeah, secondly, I had a very good visit. So I actually got COVID when the official visit happened. So I came later. I was by myself, and I met a lot of the upperclassmen. And the upperclassmen all seemed to be genuinely happy with the program for the most part. There was no one that was really like having a bad time, which might not be the case at all graduate schools. So I think that was a big thing, and they were all very friendly. So I feel like these were big things for my decision. But and then just like the caliber of names at Harvard for biophysics, especially for like the single molecule imaging that I'm interested in, was like second to none. So that's also a big thing.
Yeah, that's. I remember when I visited you, you seemed like you were very much enjoying yourself. Yeah, even though you seemed slightly stressed because of all the work that you had to go through, you looked like you were actually enjoying yourself. As a first year PhD student, um, I know you're stressed like any other student, but do you feel like the stress is different from undergraduate? Is it like time management, or is it like the difficulty of work? Is it basically the same stress, or is it just or is it significantly different?
No, I think it's very different just because we're not taking many courses as graduate students anymore. Like the main focus has gone over to research. And first year doing a lot of rotation. So it's like research with the goal of finding the person you're going to work for the next 5, 6 years. And that can be like a stressful thing because like picking the wrong lab, the wrong environment can really affect your career trajectory. So it's a lot more, I feel like, stress in the sense of thinking about what is going to happen in the future. I feel like for undergraduate, it's really in the present, like, I really need to get this class done, get this grade. And it was really like present focus, but now it's been more, I feel like, stress about the future. But maybe I should return to that present focus because I feel like focusing on the present can really help you build stuff. But like, I feel like in grad school, it's been harder to stay in the present just because the trajectory, like the speed at which things seem to be going this year is much faster than they for undergraduate years. Like, it's like I really can't believe it's been like almost a year since I applied now. So like it's just been flying by. It's sometimes hard to get a handle. Whereas undergrad never felt like it was flying by. Undergrad was always like every single day was like a different kind of challenge through classes. But now it's like what does 5 year end of 5 years look at? Like, and that was never my thought process as an undergraduate. In undergraduate, I was always like, what do I need to do to finish this semester strong? And there's definitely a balance between the two of these things. But I feel like I've swung to the other side of the pendulum per se. But
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, we've had numerous conversations about like how in the PhD you're kind of hoping to get the end goal, but and yeah, as graduates, as at least for us, well, I shouldn't say us, but for PhD students, you don't really take many courses. It's more of the research aspect of everything, and which I'm excited to get back into in like a couple of months. But we'll see how that goes. Um, but the thing is, I know I've met your cohort and everything, all great people. Do you feel like, I mean, at Harvard, the stereotype is snotty individuals. And I know you are not a snotty individual. You are one of the most humble people that I know, and I wish you were a bit more snotty because you are extremely intelligent and you should brag about your intelligence. Have you actually met any of the stereotypical snotty people? I mean, at the university.
no, I don't really. I feel like being a grad student is kind of different than being an undergrad. Like I used to walk around UB and a lot of the grad students like I don't even know where these buildings are, and that was always crazy to me as an undergraduate. But now that I'm a grad student, I'm like, we'll walk around Cambridge campus, and it's like I really have no clue what these buildings are, what they do. So it's like a different environment. Like you're really just around a more professional environment than you are as an undergraduate. So like there's not as much like It's not much like it's not like classes where it's easy for someone to be like, oh wow, look how good I did on this exam compared to other people. It's more so just like collaboration, at least in my program. Other programs I can't say much for, but that's the general impression I've had. Like grad school, it's kind of more serious, professional, less so of the like kind of like oh competition to be who's the smartest. But yeah,
That's good to hear, especially for those that are looking for a PhD. Um, I mean, we've talked about it in the past, the competitiveness of between each other. We've had numerous conversations about even some people we know, or like somehow always how people want to talk about in college, how even in high school, the competitiveness of grades. Um, but it's kind of nice to hear that, at least good to hear from me, that that competitive kind of goes away. Does it go away entirely, or is it still kind of there?
I don't really feel it much in my cohort, but I know other people in other programs, specifically people I know in physics programs, have had other experiences. So maybe not too lucky for you yet, but I think it really just
Yeah.
depends on the place, which is something you feel out by just talking to people before you go to there. So I think that's important to like kind of get a feeling for the environment.
So in those tours, essentially, when you talk to basically students there and basically gauge the environment of the students.
Yeah, you can learn a lot from talking to students because they aren't, if they're having a bad time, they aren't typically trying to hide that. So if they're having a good time, they usually speak on the best parts of it. But like a lot of them will be honest too about maybe things that could be better. But there are definitely like some red flags that, especially they're all personal for people, but there are some red flags that if you have with yourself, you know it won't work for you, then you shouldn't stick around. You should definitely like look for a better fit in that regard. Just have lines that
Uh,
I guess you can draw for yourself before making a decision.
okay, I'll keep that in mind when hopefully I get to a PhD program.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like I had a follow up question to what you were about to say, and now my brain's going blank. Um, I guess from I guess um, when I visited, right? Um, there were so many things that you know at Harvard there, and you even commented that as a PhD student, you kind of don't know um, many buildings, like what they do and all that sort of stuff. Unlike when we were undergraduates, we knew almost every building at UB. Uh, would you say that where was the question that I was kind of going on? Um, the experiences as an undergraduate and a graduate student, staying at the same school, uh, would kind of change the view of how one looks at a school.
Yeah, I think I actually have a friend that did that here. I think she switched over from like chemistry, but I think she also like said like it might have been too similar if she was in the same department, but like by switching programs, it was like kind of a different feel. So I don't really know because I don't really know. I feel like possibly if I would have stayed at Buffalo though, I just would have been like more familiar with the area. So I can't really speak intelligently on what it might be like, just like experiences from people I've heard that have stayed at the same school. But it really is like, I think we're having someone else joining next year that actually is coming from here. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good question that I don't think I can answer very well. So,
That's fair. That's fair enough. Sometimes I I kind of just ask questions. I'm like, do I expect him to have an answer? Probably not.
mhm.
But let's see if he does. Um, but I mean, as you are at Harvard, right? Um, does the name kind of affect how you kind of not as your personality, but kind of like how you work? It's like, oh, I have to work hard because I'm at Harvard, or is it kind of just like, oh, you kind of forget that you are at a high tier college. You're at a high tier facility, and you're kind of just living your life, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot I'm at this really pristine place. Or does the name kind of crumble on you?
I don't think so. So like, yeah, I think this is again part of like the grad versus undergrad difference. Like a lot of the grad students are here because they're serious about science, and that makes it like the name is big, but it's kind of overlaid by the fact that everyone here is like serious about what they're doing and naturally hardworking. And like, I guess one of my friends, he always says like, "Oh, you're the average of everyone else around you." So like, it's kind of just like not like an expectation, I would say, but it's just like the culture of the graduate programs here. So I think in that respect, people are very hardworking. And then like in that respect, I think that was something that I found to be good about this place. But I think maybe in like some of the non-PhD programs, maybe where it's more like the medical school, the law school, there might be more of that, or maybe around the well, among the undergraduates. But I would say in graduate school, like PhD, no one's here because they don't want to be here. Like it's not like I feel like in other programs, even like I would say medical school, like I feel like I talk to people that are like, oh, I don't really want to do this, but I'll go through and get a good job. But like that's just like kind of nonsensical for a PhD, right? Like doing it for prestige or to do it, get a good job. There's other degree programs you could put an equal amount of time in and get a better job and better prestige. So I think that's a big part of it. Everyone's really here because they want to do science and not what's it called? Looking for like the name is big, but not the reason why people came here in the first place. It wasn't just to say like, oh, I went to Harvard. That's why I did this PhD program. But it's like I wanted to do science. Harvard has good science, so I went to Harvard. It's more of that kind of flow than the other way.
Okay, that's good to hear. That's good to hear that the culture is actually very nice. I mean, well, I mean, I don't know if I know any other PhD students that are in other schools. I mean, technically I do, but I don't know if he would actually sign on to do this. He'd probably just insult me. But um, let me just kind of delve into what is your outside of like you work in this facility all the time. Outside of your professional life as a student, what is your favorite part about being at Harvard? Is it like kind of the central area that it's kind of lived in? Is it the food around the place? Is it just because it's quite close to Boston, you kind of visit there? What's your favorite thing about being at that place?
Yeah, I actually don't really love the city that much. It's kind of funny, but I really think like that the cohort that I came in with is a really good group of people. I kind of got lucky in that respect because I didn't meet any of them before I came here because I was sick during the actual thing. But like in terms of like actually being here, like Harvard Square has like maybe one good restaurant, but there's no go-tos. I don't have go-to restaurants in Buffalo, but I haven't found any place that's like nice and not too expensive and like also just good to go get a bite to eat at. But yeah, I don't know. I was like, we were doing our recruitment and people were saying like, oh, what do you like most about Boston? I was like, I don't know. I mean, I don't mind the Longwood area. Like I said, it's like surrounded by science, but in terms of like getting away from that kind of science, I haven't really found that yet. So still looking.
Still looking.
At least
Okay, I
in
mean
terms
it's your
of,
first year. You have like
yeah,
7 more years left.
hopefully not that long, but
Hopefully not that long, but you have some time left.
yeah, definitely.
Uh, yeah. And I mean, I've met some of your cohort. You mentioned your cohort, and after meeting them for a bit, I don't know if they'll be listening to this. I don't know if they'll remember me, but they all seem like incredible people. Um, they were all cool, and I was like, man, I forgot what it's like to be around smart people, but I also forgot how it was like to be around really chill people. So if they are listening to this, hi, you guys were great. Um, but you definitely, you said you were lucky that you got in such a good cohort. Did you expect some uh, before you even met them? Did you expect not this cohort, but say you in a different timeline, you're in a different cohort. Do you expect your cohort to kind of be eh? the best way I could say it. I don't want to say bad, but like kind of
Yeah, I know what you
eh.
mean. Yeah, I didn't really have super any real expectations. So I was just like, all right. That was the one thing about coming here. I was like, I know a few people I'd met at other visits, but it was just like kind of like having to take a chance, I guess, and just hoping it would work out. And I was also kind of like in the mindset where I'm like, oh, maybe I don't even need to like talk to these people that much. It was when I was first coming here. But like since they ended up being decent people, I feel like it's been a more pleasant experience. Like when I was first applying, I was really thinking like, oh, it would be fine if I didn't like anyone in my cohort, like whatever, just go to lab, do your work, get in. But like having that some sort of community, whether it be your cohort or just friends around the area, just having people to like talk to, and even if it's about science or not, like it's really good for your mental. So
And I mean, you and I have talked about it off camera a little bit, but have you been able to find the time to kind of? I know you work a lot, right? You study, you go to facilities a lot. That's how you work. But have you been able to find time at least like weekly to hang out with your cohort, at least like for an hour of like lunch or dinner, and just like kind of get away from everything?
yeah, maybe not weekly, but we do. I say we hang out kind of regularly. I see certain people more just because we have class wide, uh, cohort wide classes that we take. But yeah, I think yeah we do hang out somewhat regularly. So went to a Celtics game with a few of them Friday night, so that was pretty fun.
The South. Oh, who were they playing? I didn't even see.
Hornets is a cheap game because the Celtics are secured the one seed, so they played their G League team basically. But
Oh, okay. All
yeah,
right, that's
still fun to go to.
eh, but it's an event you all enjoyed. I guess that's another positive thing. Boston's Celtics, you kind of just can go visit that, even though you're an OKC fan.
Yeah,
Um, I kind of wanted to more ask about your social life, but now I feel like my question I forgot what the question was. This is why I usually
okay.
write down the question
Mhm.
instead of going with the flow. But I mean, when you were hanging out with us at UB, we pretty much weekly we hung out, and you just said that weekly you don't really hang out, but you hang out regularly. Do you feel like as an adult you kind of have to schedule appointments? Do you feel like you treasure more of those social times when it's less frequent, especially since you're working so much, or do you really try to make the time, try to you and your cohort kind of just go, okay guys, we're going to hang out this day, kind of relax, and then kind of forget about everything? Or what? I've kind of asked like five different questions in one sentence.
Mhm. Yeah, I'll try and hit them, but I feel like it actually makes me miss the times when you're like able to kind of just. I feel like in undergrad you live like with all your friends in these big dorms or apartment complexes or whatever. I feel like that was like partially why we like all hung out together so much. But I feel like this kind of makes you miss like those times that in like high school when it's just like kind of goofing off, less responsibilities. So I feel like in that respect, that's like what's it called? Makes you think more fondly back on those times. But also, like you said, kind of treasure the non-working times more. And it's like kind of just hitting that balance, right? Where you don't want to be working so much that you're not living your life, but also like not doing so little that you're not progressing in your PhD. So I think that's my answer to those questions. I think I hit them all.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think the my biggest fear, um, if I eventually get into a PhD program, is that the balance of social life and work life. And I know that you always have you time management isn't always your best suit, but you do a good job at it comparative to um, many of us that we know from school. uh,
Mhm.
I definitely lean too much with the social side. many others as well, maybe a bit too much, but you've been able to kind of balance it out. The experience that you kind of had at UB, what aspects of your kind of your work life balance from UB have you been trying to improve on as heading into your PhD program?
Yeah, I think actually parts of that have been more natural transitions just because there's less classes. So like when you're doing more research, there's like think of it as more task oriented than like hours, like trying to complete what you need to do. But like because of that, you're more a little more flexible, I feel like, with when you can fit things in. So I've been able to like try and be more healthy and think more about like that in terms of like eating and working out. But whereas undergrad, it's like I'd have class 9 to whatever, almost like four, almost classes back to back to back to back. At that point, I just want to go home and sleep. Wasn't eating that much. Like it was just like overall bad. Like the first thought was classes instead of my health, and like I think part of that was like a mindset change for me going into my PhD that I wanted to like really take better care of myself. And then sometimes I still fall into like doing too much like school related or work related stuff, but I think like just trying to keep that mindset that it is important to take care of yourself has been something important for me in grad school.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. the So you basically been fixing up a lot of like your free eating habits and healthy habits,
Yeah, no
essentially
more
from
one like egg a
no
day.
more
No, what's it called? Making
or
sure I
no
get like,
meals.
yeah, or just a snack or something. Terrible days, but
Yeah, I should be like, Paul, we're gonna go to McDonald's because you need food.
yeah, eat something at least. Yeah,
at least you, at least that's good. You're balancing it out. That's health. Very good.
yeah.
My coaching side has come out for that. Um, I had what was the question I kind of had with that of yeah, I mean you kind of mentioned that your health habits weren't great in in undergrad, especially in your later years of me living with you. It wasn't
Mm.
great. You didn't sleep as much and you didn't eat as much, but you've been fixing it mostly. I'm assuming
Trying, yeah, trying.
trying.
Not always easy as it is to say it, but yeah, definitely it's something I think more about than I used to as an undergrad. But
Um, do you feel as if uh, well, that's I kind of answered my question by going through that kind of in your program or like you kind of built more time to deal with your health instead of um, just focusing on work because you as much as you overworked you tried to eat but now that you're kind of working a lot are you kind of making yourself eat more at least.
yeah, no, I feel like I've been pretty good about eating 3 meals a day almost, which is like way up from 0 to 1 a day. I think some stretches of undergrad. So
3 meals, geez, I still don't do that.
yeah, wake up and get breakfast now. It's yeah. Like in terms of sleep, I feel like it's that's still not great, but working on that. It's always my sleep has been weird since I had a concussion, but trying to fix that again, and then just going to the gym. I've been able to go a lot of days during the week, but like at weird times. It's just like now instead of like having to worry about classes, it's like I can go gym at like 10 p.m. and then get there pretty easily, get home, go to sleep. So it's just getting into a routine. I feel like it's been helpful.
I had another question and I forgot about it but you don't live too far away from campus and many people who kind of go to colleges or like even programs kind of decide whether or not they want to live far away to make it a commute for a drive or a walk distance. Do you prefer walking or driving to your designated location on campus? Because I know a lot of people kind of want to walk to kind of experience the environment around you, but some people don't want to. I don't know how your preference is, and
Yeah,
the
there's just no
walking or
parking
the commute
anywhere.
the travel is.
There's just
Okay.
very little parking, especially in like the Harvard Square area and the HMS area. So I feel like it's kind of walking, yes, to like see the environment, but it's also like you don't want to pay $50 a day to park near HMS. So and then there's pretty good public transportation around here, so that helps things.
Okay. That $50 a day, Jesus Christ. That is absurd. Kind of glad how my living situation is now. But
Yeah, I don't know the exact price, but just parking in Boston is ridiculous.
yeah. Yeah, I've explored a little bit of the square, and it's a pretty decent walking area. It's not too crazy. I did experience it on a weekend, so it wasn't, you know, when school's in operations. But since it's since Harvard is kind of in a completely different state, right? And UB, of course, is in the same state. How is it living in such a far distance from where not only where you lived, but where you spent 4 years of your life going to college? Is like that huge transitional change. How did that kind of affect you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Buffalo too is like most of my family's from like the Buffalo area, so like right in like down in like what's it called? Kind of like Canisius area, Buffalo. So like what's it called? It was kind of hard to like move away from family. My brother and sister are still like up in Amherst where UB is, but I feel like the transition wasn't too bad. It was just like an adjustment over time. So it was like kind of gradual, like getting used to whatever the new equilibrium of living in Massachusetts was. But I think it's getting there, so that's a good thing.
Never. You do you sometimes feel homesick at all? I'm sure you go back home every now and then.
Yeah, yeah, I do have my car, so I can. It's easy to drive on the highways back to New York State. So I haven't been home in a while, but getting to Buffalo is a bit far of a drive. So
Yeah, definitely. Um, I don't know if I could do what you did and move that far away. I say that, but I do plan on it eventually.
mhm.
But I don't know. I think for myself, after everything that's kind of been happening, I won't get into it. I've talked about it too many times. I think I need to be by myself for a bit, and
Mhm.
that separation from kind of everyone is somewhat necessary, in my opinion. I don't know how
Mhm.
you feel about that sort of way. It's kind of like a new, fresh start. I don't know
Yeah,
how you feel about the that sort of.
yeah, definitely in a way, it's kind of a fresh start, but also like the fresh start becomes old pretty quickly as well. So it's like good to cherish being around family and such, but it's definitely
Yeah,
something you have to balance, like making sure you reach out to people, being able to stay in contact with them. So
that's always a good thing. That's always a good thing. Um, I don't really have any more questions or any other topics. Even in my notes, I don't really have any more topics that I kind of want to talk about. Is there anything you want to say? Any other advice about like being in a program, college advice? Anything you want to say? Ask?
yeah, I guess yeah, nothing in particular, but I guess it'll change as I go through. G1's probably gonna be different than G2, G3, then the G4. So it's probably gonna be maybe my thoughts on things will change in the future, but for now, that's I feel like where I've come to. But
All right. All right. I think I don't want to waste your time, your busy time. I know you have a lot of work to gotta do. We've already got about 15 minutes worth of footage, so I want to thank you for coming in. I know you're very busy. So, of course, thank you. If everyone has enjoyed this podcast, I appreciate it all. Um, any bye remarks you want to say?
As, so yeah, thanks for chatting with me. It's good to see you, Keo.
It's good to see. It's good to see you too. Yeah. If you're, I'll see you guys next week. I'll be back with another friend of mine who probably is in the music industry. Like, subscribe, comment if you're on YouTube. Any other thing out there? I still don't know a proper outro for this podcast, unlike my other one. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye, everybody. All right.